Welcome to Sweeping the Country. I'm your host, Derek Walker. My co-host, Mr. Jimmy Carter. Happy holidays.
Well, happy holidays to you. Boy, just, everybody's talking about, right now the holidays, and I've been rapping today, not rapping like,
I didn't know you were a rapper.
like a rapper, like
Jay-Z.
rapping presidents. and God, it's exhausting just doing that, and I've forgotten how bad I was at
rapping.
It, that was,
But,
yeah.
Jimmy,
I got a little better as the day went on, but it was still, I was very generous this year with my grandkids. I guess I feel like I'm getting older. How many more times can I do this?
Wow. Okay.
Type thing. So
Yeah.
I was thinking, I don't know why I didn't want to think that way, but I have.
Yeah.
So I've spoiled them bad this year.
Well,
really
good.
bad.
I mean, that's good.
The little babies, the little kids anyway, that are Santa people. I love all that.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's
But what a year. I mean, this year's been strange.
Agree.
Really, because I had planned a big trip for the summer and it got messed up. And it wasn't Ted's fault that he, we do a boys trip every summer, and we couldn't do it because of his health this year. And I tried to do it by myself, and I just couldn't do it more than just a couple of stops. And plus, it wasn't fun being out there by myself.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it was just kind of a blown vacation. And then the end of the year here has sort of been blown because I'm having to work a lot. I didn't want to punish myself because in some cases, if I'm not there, I don't get paid.
Yeah.
So I'm,
and let me just preface
I can't
this.
afford for Jimmy to have a vacation. I need to get paid,
Right?
Because I took off and went to Texas. Have we done this show?
Oh, yes.
Since then?
Yeah, you
we
did.
didn't
But
we?
but let me just, for people that don't know, in the media business, there's a time of year when you go on vacation, and that's it. You don't go in May. You don't go in July.
Generally,
It's the last week of the year and the first week of the
generally
year.
the last week of the year is just like a really dead one.
Yeah,
for
totally,
broadcasting. That's
totally.
when a lot of people take off. In maybe, but not this year because we have some new people that we're on, and it's just not working out. And I don't have anywhere I need to go, so that's fine.
Gotcha.
I can go on one or two of the days to where I need to go. But it's just been a weird year. It's been a weird year politically.
Yeah, that's true.
With Trump getting elected and with Elon Musk and, those people coming in, and with it just seems like the Democrats, who seem like they really had the bull by the horns when the year started.
Yes, it does.
They're a dog chasing its tail in a circular firing squad right now, and the knives are out from, people are doing the tell-all on Biden now. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, it just
Saying
switched
how
like
out of
a
it he's
light
been.
switch. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how out of it he's been, and and they've kept that all, to themselves, and their friends in the media have covered that up, which has cost most all the national media just about all their credibility. If they had any anyway that was left with that coming out, they didn't do their job. Their job was to tell us that he was so out of it that three people were basically his handlers. And it's bad. It was
Jimmy,
really bad.
Not only did it cost the trust of the public, which you're right on the money with that, but it also cost that particular political party the election. Had they maybe started earlier and come to the table and said, look, we have a problem and we want to address it as a nation, because that's really the best interest of who they should have been watching out for to start with. But yeah, you're right. The media not exposing that has just buried them even deeper.
Was a major sin. I mean, it's almost an unforgivable sin because it could have cost us everything.
Yeah, you're right.
With the president of our country, and I don't care who he is, Democrat, Republican, Independent, if someone is that cognitively screwed up, a lot of people have not done their job. A lot of people.
I would agree.
The White House surgeon, I mean, that person pretty much needs to have his license pulled. Really,
boy,
I mean,
can't
it's just
disagree.
bad. Yeah. And I understand people want to hold on to power and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but
I get it.
No, this isn't good. And the same way with, they said people have not been able, cabinet people, not been able to reach him. They claim that's not true, that he didn't start his day till the afternoon sometimes.
Yeah.
He didn't have meetings at all. I mean, they covered everything up, and then they've covered up showing him just falling, like walking in the sand, which he almost can't do, and falling down. And people if it had been Trump or anybody on the Republican side, it'd have been the front page all of the time.
Yeah.
And the fact that they pick sides like that, and that's bad.
I agree.
And now the Bidens are supposedly really mad at Pelosi, and they're mad at Obama. because Obama didn't endorse Harris for 4 or 5 days, that they weren't all in on this. And some people think that Joe, because he said a bunch of stuff on when he was campaigning for Harris that really hurt her.
Yeah.
I mean, there are people calling the Republicans garbage, and a number of other things that he said. It was almost like he was sabotaging her candidacy.
I mean, I hate to believe that, but I kind of do.
I think he was angry. I think he was thrilled when she lost.
Yeah.
I think his pride is that much. Well, if they'd have kept me in there,
I might have been able to pull it off.
If they had the candy, I'd have won. Yeah. And I don't know that that's not true.
I don't either.
I don't know if they'd have kept him if he may not have won.
Yeah.
Because they didn't read the room right with Harris. It just wasn't the right woman at the right time.
Yeah, I agree.
It just wasn't.
I agree.
I think a lot of people were against it, that were the normal people that would be, for that party. And that was the big story of the year. That's why Trump is the Time Man of the Year. That was the only person that could have been Man of the Year.
You're right about that. And there was also a sway across the country in the last few years from the woke culture to the non-woke side.
Oh, just in a heartbeat. Yeah,
it really did. You're right.
A light switch.
You're right. I mean, we were living.
And we're not through with it yet.
No, we're not
there yet.
No, we're not. But,
and as we talk, we're trying to get a budget together because Democrats threw in a bunch of stuff as part of the negotiation, including giving themselves a raise.
Right.
And then Musk and others said something about it, and they had to pull it after they'd already agreed to it. And that's made people I've heard some Democrat people just angry as hornets, calling him President Musk and, all this kind of stuff. They're angry and they're discombobulated and they're just a mess.
Yeah, I would agree.
They're just a mess. And so we'll see where all that goes in the new year. Mm-hmm. And then the stock market, lost 1,000 points in a day for whatever reason.
I was making so much money with Bitcoin, and all of a sudden that came back to earth. And so I thought to myself, well, I'll just leave it in there for 20 years and see what happens. I mean, it's a roller coaster.
We're a roller coaster.
Yes,
it's just things are crazy. And then, you wonder where everything is going in the new year. And certainly people, this week, where everybody was in line last week about from whether it was the head of Apple to whatever, all meeting with Trump and Trudeau and all these leaders meeting with him and trying to get, on the right side of things before the tariffs would come in. And,
oh, gosh.
And I hear CNN and others, they're still so angry. And instead of the stories being about, this is what we can expect and how can we make things better in the country, they're all still trying to chop Trump down off the cherry tree.
Yeah, can we move this
forward?
forward?
It's just all anti-Musk, anti-Trump, and all that stuff.
I want to move forward. I mean, sitting there and watching all of that Canadian stuff with, the tariffs are coming. Well, we're not going to give energy to the United States anymore from one of the areas. The other areas, we're not going to stop. It's crazy, but can we move forward? Can the news agencies
You would
move
think that
forward?
they would make some effort to doing that, but they, then you've got the media in so many ways falling apart, particularly the national media.
That is true, yeah.
This week, Neil Cavuto, who I liked on CNN, former CNBC guy, he did the business thing in the afternoon.
That's
he did Fox Business, and he also did regular Fox. He did a really good show on Saturday morning. He was the only one on the network. Well, Brett Baer, it's on their national newscast at 6 Eastern, 5 Central, 4 your time. He doesn't seem to be on one. He plays the middle as well as any of the as any of the national newscasts do. Neil Cavuto was critical of everybody.
He was.
He was anti-Trump for a while, and that was not popular at Fox. And a lot of people, had bad things to say about him. But really good guy. He's fought cancer. He's fought multiple sclerosis.
Yeah. And
what happened here is, I think, was what happened to Hoda. Although they're never going to admit this, but this is what's happening all over the country. These high-paid anchors are being offered, when their contracts are up, they're being offered a new deal at less money.
I think that's accurate, yeah.
And they're all getting less money. All these superstars, they can't afford it anymore. When you look at like Kelly Clarkson, her show is number one in the afternoon on the NBC-operated stations.
Yeah.
She gets 1.2, 1.3 million. That wouldn't even be worth talking about. in the past.
That's
For a
right.
national rating being a 1, that would be no. And they're thrilled about it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, 1.2 million people can get you some advertising, yeah. But again, what's acceptable is some big hit now. I mean, Yellowstone got 11 million or either 16, one or the other. Landman's getting 11 million, 14 million, whatever. When
Yeah.
you add up all the different times,
Yeah.
and or you take they can do all kinds of things with money. Those are obviously big hit shows. But if a big hit now is 10 or 11 or 12, a super hit,
Yeah.
wow, that's a long way from where things used to be.
I would agree.
Things.
I would agree, and I think that plays across the board. And I wonder, I mean, if things are just leveling out with all the other options that are out there with your online stuff. I mean, you yourself.
Well, that's going to have to blow up too, because
it does,
they
but
cannot afford. Netflix can, because they are really out there where the buses don't run. I mean, look at them on Christmas Day. They're doing 2 NFL games. And you can't get them anywhere else but Netflix.
Okay, so this is interesting that you bring that up. And I will, just a side caveat, the numbers you're throwing up there, 1 million people, you had a post this week. You alone had a post this week that it's going to hit 4 million.
Yeah, it is.
It's
4 million.
It's a single
that's
picture.
4 times what Kelly Clarkson is getting
That's what I'm saying.
for a show.
That's what I'm saying. So you can't even compare that anymore. You got eyes, 4 million, 8 million eyes on that picture, and which is incredible, which is way more than they're getting on those kind of things. So you see all these.
So that's where the advertising dollars have gone.
That's right. You're right 100%.
Digital, and that's why they have now. Whether digital, I don't think personally that digital can sell a product as well as radio or television.
Okay,
I just can't.
I will agree with you, and I have a great
just
example.
Kiss it off when it's up there. If you see it at all, you can't wait to minimize it. It is an advertising unfriendly media.
Okay, so it's hard to pinpoint. As accurate as it is, it's also hard to pinpoint what you got out of that, unless it's a click and buy. So, for example, we had I do some marketing on the side, and you know that, and for some major companies, and we were looking at a demographic of a purchased. I'll just say it was an online media that lets you boost your post by paying. You can pay extra.
I know. I've never done that, by the way, to get that 3 million today. I didn't pay 1 cent.
That's viral. That's what makes it so great. So as we're going through and looking at the boosts and whether they paid for themselves or not, or were they worth it and all this thing, which we really can't quantify anyway because we don't know who bought. The companies that I'm talking about don't sell things on the internet. It's just brand impression. Do they eventually come make a large purchase of your brand? And we're looking at it, and I'm looking at specific parts of the country where they spent thousands of dollars sending out advertisements on this social media site where they advertised all the way across the country, 3,000 miles away, for let's say East Coast, for a West Coast company that doesn't foster online ordering. Not money well spent. A lot of people saw it. For the brand worldwide, it's great, but for the specific retailer, it doesn't help at all, to have that brand impression. So what you're saying is completely accurate, and I don't know how much it pencils out. When you have a radio or TV in a given market, advertising specifically to that market, yeah, maybe it does pay off. And if you have an internet focus or an online focus that advertises in that 50-mile radius where you want it, maybe that works. I don't know. But the stuff where you say, 50 million people saw this ad. Yeah, but they lived in Botswana.
Yeah.
It's not helping me sell my brick and mortar stuff.
And it's a complicated world that's every day we're learning more about it, and both of us are in the middle of it.
Yeah, we are.
Trying to figure it out. But I just know that traditional media is just getting hit on the head. I mean, and these in the days of these big time people on these national services, getting, a lot of money. I mean, Chris Wallace, he got boomed, he got boomed from CNN because he didn't really have a show, and they weren't doing that one thing anymore because the company got bought.
Yeah.
So he was booted. And they're not renewed. The contract's not renewed. They're not fired.
No.
But they're just, when the contract is up, they offer them this and they don't want to work for this, so they leave.
And you're right. The money just isn't there because it's been sent out to other media.
Right. And that's exactly right. It's not that they're not advertising anymore, these folks. It's just always just look and see who the sponsors are
Yeah.
on your network newscast, the one that comes on in the evening, whether it comes on at 7 o'clock or 6:30 or 5:30,
Hmm.
whichever your choice is. It's all medical. It's sometimes automobiles, but it's rarely much of anything else.
Yeah, you're
If
right.
you want to see the good commercials like we used to have, they're still pretty much on football.
Yeah,
If
you're
you watch
right.
a football game that's a bowl game or something, you're seeing the Dr. Peppers and the beer. You're seeing the traditional beverages and everything else, cars for sure.
Yeah.
Because they like the demo. They like
Do
the
you?
kind of people that are watching sports. But when you have these, I mean, Blue Bloods, what a great show, quality television.
Hmm.
40 minutes of content, 10 minutes of commercials, or probably maybe more. But people don't want to watch TV like that anymore because we've
You're
been
right.
spoiled. So I pay extra for Paramount Plus with no commercials, and I watch the FBI and FBI Most Wanted that way.
So you said something interesting. So for me, I buy the NBA, right? The NBA package, so I can watch my favorite
Okay.
basketball team. And when we first bought it years ago, I think it was during COVID, in between the plays, when they would run commercials, when they would take the TV break, they would just put a single graphic and play some music. And I
Yeah.
paid for that. I paid $199 for the whole season, whatever. Now, I've noticed, both my wife and I watching the other night, we don't get that with the music anymore. We get ads, but it still costs us the same amount of money. So I'm
Well,
starting.
NBA just did a new deal. On Christmas Day, ABC and ESPN are doing 13 consecutive hours of NBA games.
Wow, interesting. Which
Now on the Netflix, you've got two NFL games. So those are the two
and,
sports that
and
day. So the
Amazon.
only free sport will be on sometimes ABC.
Wow.
And Netflix, you'll have to have a subscription to watch the pro football games, and that's going to make a lot of people mad
Is
because
there
Kansas City, Pittsburgh is the
Oh
first one
man, yeah.
at
Now,
10 o'clock your time. Mountain
so
time.
let me ask you a question. Do you think it's going, and I wish it would, I don't know if it will, do you think it's going to go the a la carte route where you just say, hey, I want to watch the Pittsburgh Kansas City game. It's $50. That's what
Ugh.
I'll pay.
No, but to be totally that, no. I mean, there's too much there. The baseball TV and all of them, all the leagues are still using some type of municipal money in these towns, for
Okay.
stadiums
Okay.
and things like that.
Yeah.
And I don't think Congress allows them to be kind of a monopoly.
Mm-hmm.
And if they start screwing around with some of that stuff, and they're getting close with the NFL,
Yeah, right.
they're liable to, irritate Congress here. So. And
Fascinating.
speaking of that, the college thing is so messed up. This weekend you got playoffs and things.
Yeah.
The college kids are now basically free agents like the NFL.
They are with the
And
with the
there's like a
NIL money. Yeah.
quarterback for Penn State, their second quarterback. He's left during the playoffs on NIL. How
What?
bad is that? And there are people in the middle of doing this transfer thing. They're ruining college football. I mean, you got
I agree.
it's just
I
you
agree.
can't. These kids are leaving. They have no loyalty. A lot of them don't have any loyalty to the school, and they're leaving. And they've gone 2 years. They didn't get played enough, so they're going to some other school.
And think about it, too. I mean, you got guys like Sanders, his son, the quarterback for Colorado, right? You have a guy that makes, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood, don't quote me on this, but I think it's around $5 million a year. Okay, he's in college. What's a first-year contract for a QB in the NFL? 900?
Less than that.
Yeah, so you got guys like Brock Purdy who are making $900,000 a year, and you got Sanders' son making $5 million a year in the college world. It's crazy. So
It's crazy,
they
and they know that they need it. It's just I don't think they know how to get there. The head of the NCAA, and the NCAA is just they don't do anything good. They do everything pretty much bad. The head of it got grilled in Congress this week,
Yeah.
saying that on the subject of trans, we let trans men in the women's area, and a number of schools have not played their games because of that subject of a trans man in the women's dressing room. And so the Congress is drilling the NCAA, said it's a federal law. And they said, no, it isn't. There is not a federal law.
Yeah.
There have been some decisions that don't count. So they're just doing it because they're doing it. And
Wow.
that's a subject that's going to hit the fan in 2025 too.
It's got to be. It's got to be addressed. There are enough collegiate sports where. I'll just say a ladies team that's playing a team from another school that has a transgendered male player on the team that is playing. They've now forfeited their game and walked away. And somebody's going to have to address that.
So all this stuff that's, I don't know what you call it. I don't know if that's under the woke agenda, but things like that I just don't. I think we're just going to see some changes. I think you're going to see a lot of things taken to court, and a lot of things are going to get bumped up because this is not good for the court system. I think they've now shown in many cases, one of the reasons that Trump got elected is the people did not like the fact that different political people politicized the judicial system. Use the court to they were trying to take him out by way of court.
Yeah, weaponizing the Department of Justice.
Weaponizing the Department of Justice or the state one or whatever.
Yeah.
And then using juries, the jury pool that was guaranteed to convict.
That's crazy.
Because it didn't represent your peers, that's for sure.
Yeah.
In any of these places. So, that didn't work out the way they wanted it to work out. So now they're still hanging this over, a two-time president, on some charges that who knows how that's all going to work out. But I think people are tired of that. We want to move on from that.
Yes, I agree. I'm
and
one
I
of
wish
them.
That and if he's going to pardon a bunch of people for January 6th, that's I guess that's his right. It's like Biden's doing 1,500 people. One of them was a Chinese communist that had child porn on his computer.
Yeah,
is one of the 1,500 that's getting paroled or their sentences commuted.
I want to ask you. I mean, you've been in this world a little longer than I have. When did that all start, and what made that all okay, and what
the commuting thing?
Yeah, the carte blanche with the pardoning.
Some presidents, they could always do it, but they generally didn't do it till their last days.
Yeah.
In office.
Okay.
I mean, whoever you are, some did it more than others. Clinton hit the fan with, some of the people that he let go there toward the end that were, a lot of people didn't like what he did on that.
Right.
And there have been some others. And then, of course, Biden commuting his son, which we knew somebody was going to do.
Yeah,
They're not going to send a president's son to some hardcore prison.
Right.
It just wasn't going to happen. Not if someone could stop it.
Right, especially a family member, right? I mean,
so you knew that wasn't going to happen.
Sure.
So people are all mad. People are mad all over the place. And then this whole thing is going to hit the fan in 2025 about people working at home, the old COVID thing where you could do your work in your pajamas. Well, they say 70% or some ridiculous number like that of office space is unused in Washington, D.C. because people are working at home.
Yeah.
I know of someone this week that needed a particular person. I'm going to be very vague about this, so I won't give them up. But this person needed another government. He's a government employee.
Yeah.
Needed another government employee to do some work. Well, they couldn't do it because that person was at home on their 2 days or 3 days, however many they get a week, that they can work from home.
Yeah.
So he needed another one and another one. He finally had one that he needed that was right there in the building. But you can't get your work done because people are at home in their pajamas instead of being at work where they're needed to be. And some people now, and you've got a generation maybe that think it's okay to work like that, and people are scared they're going to lose employees and everything. And like Trump says, okay, good.
Right.
We'll get by without them, and that's going to create some unemployment. But I just can't, I think they're going to, and they may run into some union issues and other things, but people need to go to work.
Yeah,
and let them work flex time or let them work some different schedules. But this whole thing of, I don't want to come to work, I want to work at home. That's the inmates running the asylum. And I know you're not supposed to, that's a phrase you're not supposed to say, but it sure fits.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. They're dictating the terms of the agreement, which
of
is
employment. And, that just don't work. I mean, it works for some of us for some things, but I've told people, I've told members of my family, some of my most valuable contacts in my life have come from work, being in the building, working together, as a group, being there in the same room. Yes, we had hard times at times, but the bond that you get with people from work, if it's nothing more than employee versus management, you still, it's just an important bond of people that love you. And if you're in the hospital, they'll come and see you and all that. If you're remote like this on, on Zoom or whatever you're doing, you don't get those kind of relationships.
Well,
They're very superficial.
You're coming from a really good point because you've had to work at a station, you've had to work at a studio.
Absolutely,
I have had to work.
And those were all the important things. And this stuff,
Right.
like teaching like this or anything else, it works for some things, and it's great. But it's not a cure-all, and it's not a great way to run a business. It just isn't.
Now you've got there's a whole generation that doesn't know anything but that. There's a whole
We got a whole generation of people that doesn't know what it's like for a country to be threatened. We got
That's
a whole
also true.
generation that
That's
doesn't
also
know
true.
what war is or doesn't know what a veteran is because they haven't had any.
That's also true.
In the 2000s.
Also
really.
true. But I agree
no
with you.
Iraq war, no Iran war, no Korea, no Vietnam, none of that of what people had to do. Those awful wars that mostly were crap,
No.
particularly Vietnam.
Yeah, you're right about all that.
And so they're not threatened by anything. They don't realize that they just don't get it because the media is so, what is the word I'm looking for? Not honest.
Okay.
That they're not telling stories. They're dishonest. And not that they're lying per se, but the coverage. Just doing 10 stories about Trump being a jackass instead of one, and then tell me what's going on everywhere else.
Right. That's true. That is true.
They just pound, and it doesn't work. And it's totally cost them their jobs now in the end.
You're right. You're right.
You go to military.com, you can go to a lot of other places still and get the news. The whole drones thing.
Boy, that took forever to come out, didn't it? I
don't know
what still isn't
who knows
out.
what the truth is. You go back, number one, you've got the guy from Homeland Security said everything is okay. And he's the one that told us the border was okay. So he's really got
we
a
don't
lot
trust
of
that guy already.
ability anyway.
Yeah.
But you've got the balloon thing that came over the country
it was
where
fine.
everybody said, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. And then we finally had to get an F-22 to shoot it out of the skies.
That's right, yeah.
Finally when they've had enough, when they realized it was doing some maybe bad
shady
things.
stuff. Yeah.
So I think personally, and we're not told this, like Trump said, because he's getting briefings every day. He's knowing what's going on, and he knows what he can't say.
Mm-hmm.
He don't want to go to get impeached on the first day of office.
Right.
So they're telling him things now that he could get in trouble if he tells us. But he said the government knows what this is.
Yeah.
And if they don't know what it is, shoot it down or something. He said, but if it's let's take it this way. If it's little green men coming to probe you and all that stuff, they're not going to use FAA approved lighting.
No.
Up there blinking with the flash and the strobe and all the things you've got to have a legal drone. Okay. Now, if it's somebody else, if it's the bad guys coming up, they're not going to put lights on their drone. They're going to not have any lights on there.
You're not going to see it
everything that people are seeing are lights in the sky. Those are not bad people because they wouldn't have lights in the sky to tell you they're coming.
Yeah, you're probably right. So it doesn't make a lot of sense that people are concerned about being under attack. I don't know what the solution to the drone thing is. I know you have to be licensed to fly one. If you're flying,
unless you don't. Unless you don't have your license,
unless you don't,
and they obviously can't catch you, at least with the current situation.
It doesn't seem
but
like
I've known for some time that Secret Service, they've had a drone killer deal, that if, around football stadiums, they've been very worried about somebody flying drones around Super Bowls and stuff like that. Well, they had some kind of anti-drone stuff that it's a jamming. Mm-hmm. It jams the frequency
so they can't
of the drone.
function.
So the drone goes back home or goes down when you jam the frequency because it's in contact with your controller. That's how it's guided. And I don't know, people just can't seem to tell the truth. The government, then they let this go way too far. So you've got some people just cutting the monkey out there, and then you may be having some people doing some surveillance on things when they're near Camp Pendleton or near that weapons storage base in New Jersey.
Who knows?
Might be the bad guys that are up with a legal drone. With a legal drone, bad guys that are surveilling. But you can get everything you want just about on a legal satellite now. But maybe sometimes up close, you can only zoom in so far. And with these 4K and great cameras that are on these drones now, if you went and wanted to see exactly the movement of what's going on, people say, well, I've seen these things as big as refrigerators up there. Well, the people in Hollywood fly drones as big as refrigerators.
Yeah,
That are
yeah.
used. They use those now, and they put a big old camera on them. And they don't use a helicopter most of the
I
time anymore. They
watched.
use a drone.
I was driving, it's probably been a month or two ago, but I was driving through some of the cornfields. We have a lot of cornfields here and, obviously agriculture all over this state. And I was driving to work one day and it was light out and I saw probably the size of, two bathtubs side by side flying down a row of corn, spraying.
Spraying. They do agricultural spraying because they don't do some of people still do the planes.
Yeah, but this
when
was
they
not.
can, they're using drones now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was close proximity, so it wasn't getting spray all over the place. It was spraying just the plant. I'm sure it's cheap.
It gets closer than an agricultural
Yeah,
plane
yeah.
can do. Those daredevils that were
And I saw-
flying, that still fly on the cotton fields in the
Yeah,
South.
they do. Yeah, they still
But yeah,
get on here.
drone technology is doing all kinds of
Yeah,
things.
and I saw nobody standing around. There was nobody. Somebody was flying it from somewhere, but I didn't see
They're
him.
watching it on a camera, they're playing it like a video game.
Yeah, maybe so, but just fascinating. So yeah, they're getting used in all kinds of industry.
Yes.
and so yeah, you're going to see more of that, and they've tried to license and keep everybody.
But see, I think also this was one that very easily what this could have been, and they would have used lights because they weren't trying to hide.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been something from Space Command, because in the war in Ukraine, one thing they've had over there are swarm drone attacks.
Yes, they have. Yeah.
And they're from Iran or from wherever, and they come in swarms of a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
And see, we can't use our $1 million missiles shooting down
Right.
a swarm of drones.
Right.
So we're trying to figure out how to fight them. How we do, you can jam them,
Mm-hmm.
and then sometimes laser, because you go,
Right.
with some laser guided thing. There are different ways that we got to figure out how we're going to fight drones.
Sure.
And so very easily could have been, when you see the things looking over areas, in New Jersey that are important, or California, could have been a military exercise
Mm-hmm.
trying to put drones up to see if anybody's going to catch them.
Oh, sure.
And where they could just come right in with a bomb over the fence and take you out, and then don't have to go through the gate. Can come right over.
Yeah, it's scary.
You
It is
could have
scary.
done it anyway with the plane, but it's a little harder because those are all marked and people are watching them. But drones, unless you got a special gizmo, because they do all come down with a number and license.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're military like Iran, that just goes through.
Who cares?
So
Yeah.
it could be people trying to check our systems to see if they were, if we were going to catch them, and then it got out of control.
Yeah.
They just didn't want to tell anybody, being secret all the time.
It could be. I mean, there's a lot of stuff we don't know. The entire
Yeah, a lot of
Area
stuff
51 was
Yeah, I mean, people
created.
saw lights, and for years, there have been
right.
things out west people have seen,
right.
and it turned out it was the stealth fighter plane, it was the B-1
Yeah.
bomber,
And
it was all
will-
kinds of different things.
I will say, though, it doesn't hurt, and I'm not saying don't be, but for people to be vigilant in what they see in the sky. I mean, that's
Yeah.
also important, too. I mean, we don't know for sure. So, yeah, the whole thing is just fascinating. And when you couple that with all these things that we've been through this year and into 2025, you've got to throw in there AI. I mean, AI is
We don't even know what that's going to do.
that's going to
and
be a
that's-
whole nother thing. Yeah.
It's going to really be a big court case this year coming up, of what their people have sold their voices, sold their likenesses to
All of
train
it.
these AI computers. And I'm using AI with
I am too.
photography.
Yeah.
You can clean up pictures now
Oh, it's
so
so
much better than
easy.
you ever could before.
Yeah.
I think AI. I have the Apple artificial intelligence in my new phone.
How has that
I've
changed
used-
how you use your phone much? Has it?
I'm asking questions that I used to ask to Alexa.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I didn't know they'll do it right here. Hey Siri, what is the Gasparilla Bowl? And so it tells me right here, the Gasparilla Bowl is an annual NCAA sanctioned postseason college football game played in the Tampa Bay area.
Yeah. Great. Yeah.
Now I used to ask Alexa that, and Alexa would tell me maybe if I knew.
Sometimes,
But I
yeah.
haven't been able to stump this very much. And it
Interesting.
prints it out because I don't have the
Interesting.
voice turned on. There may be a voice that goes with it, but I've cut that off
Yeah.
as well as the notifications. But yes, it's definitely used how I've used. I don't know all the different ways, but I am using it. It's been very helpful,
Yeah.
on stuff like that. When I don't know, I could type it in, but if I can just ask it and it shows it, that takes me less trouble than going to Google.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I've seen a few commercials where people are talking like it's a friend. Hey, thanks for reaching out.
Now, I haven't done the thing. I
did
did it once, but I haven't figured how to do it smoothly, where you write a letter to somebody and it cleans it up.
I did a while back. I wrote not necessarily a letter, but I wrote. I said I have $100,000 and I want to get into the portable toilet business. Make me a business plan and give me some company names. And it took about 5 minutes.
Okay.
And I had everything. Everything. Here's how much you spend. Here's how many you buy. Here's what you spend on marketing.
Wow.
Here are 5 different names of companies that you could try to use. And
see, I just haven't had a
my
situation
gosh.
to tell me about that. I did ask it about me. What do I do? What are some of the things I do in my job, for radio? And
Yeah.
and maybe I told it some of the things. But anyway, it listed all the. I didn't realize I did all those things, but I do.
It's fairly accurate.
It was,
Yeah.
It was pretty amazing. AI is going to be good and bad, and then where the things people could create pictures and create different
that
things.
part's rough.
Nuts. Yeah. It's nuts. One thing that's going to happen in the new year, and I'm really happy about this. It seems like the movie business at the theater is going to come back this year.
Well, I sure hope so.
It started to pick up in 2024, but in 2025, there's a new Jurassic Park, there's a new Superman, there's a new Mission Impossible, there's a new Wicked. There's a bunch of stuff that's going to be good that you're only going to be able to see at the theater.
I like that.
And, if they could just make the theater, where it's not $50 for 2 people to go and have a popcorn and a Coke. I mean,
I don't know if that's gone.
That's not good.
My wife went to a theater the other day and she said, "Oh my gosh, we have to go." She went with one of our children and they went and saw Wicked when it came out. And so they went during the day, whatever. And she came back and she said, "Oh my gosh," she said the seats were, 3 feet wide. They were leather. It was so nice. I mean, you give me that and maybe a beer and a movie and something good to eat.
It's just the big thing is the cost. It really is the problem.
It's expensive, but I mean,
and also, they don't have enough people. So when I went to Wicked, I didn't go to Wicked that day. I went to Gladiator. So I had my ticket, the barcode thing you have to buy it. They don't really have a ticket window in most places anymore.
Yeah.
So you got to buy it online. They do your little square thing there.
Yeah.
Then I went off to the theater. I couldn't get a Coke or a popcorn or anything at any price because the line was completely backed up. It must have been 50 people, 100 people, because they had 2 or 3 people working back there.
Now,
because they weren't geared up to be successful anymore.
Now the theater that my wife went to, they'll bring it to your seat.
Well, if they have enough people, I'm sure they would.
Yeah,
but in this
they come
case,
with a
this
waiter.
theater had one person kind of zapping you to come in, and then they had 3 or 4 people back there at the most doing the Coke and popcorn and doing all that, and it couldn't handle it.
That's interesting. So, well, I'd like to see it come back because that would be.
But anyway, that's a good thing that's coming back.
Yeah, I like that.
Someone's got to fix college football. Maybe not in the new year, but pretty soon because it's going to crash and burn in its current way that it's doing.
I don't disagree. I can't.
It's bad. It's really bad. And the Democratic Party, we need 2 parties. We do.
Yeah.
And they got to quit being so extreme. That's where they've got to fix themselves, and they know it. And that's going to be like pulling teeth on a horse.
I agree.
They won't. There's just so many, and it's hard with the Republicans. You've got the nut factor of the Republican Party that's in there. And they're loud and they're crazy, and they're going to probably blow out this Speaker of the House because he's not radical enough for them.
It's interesting.
And the Democrats, are rooting and scheming, around for what they're trying to do as the minority party. They don't like that.
Oh, I've even seen talk of
doing everything they can to set the people up and make the other people fail.
I've seen talk of getting rid of the Electoral College and all kinds of...
they don't like the Supreme Court because
it's interesting.
And, it's funny, back in the 60s when the Democrats were in charge and they had Earl Warren as Chief Justice, the Republicans were trying to get rid of the Supreme Court.
It was the other way around.
So it just depends on whose ox is being gored,
Right.
of whether or not you're into things. So,
Well, wasn't
but
it?
yeah, you're seeing the people getting these judges, instead of being, impartial, they're walks. And so you're running into that at the district court level, because you had 8 years of Obama, 8 years of Clinton putting those in, and then you had 8 years of Bush, but he put some stuff in there for sure. Then you had 4 years of it. It's really depends on what part of the country it's in.
Yeah.
Because these are lifetime appointments. So
Right.
yeah, it's the courts are an interesting situation that may get more high profile if we'll see. They're going to have to answer some big questions though this year.
No doubt about it. Well, Jimmy, obviously this is going to be our last show of 2024, so I want to wish you a Merry Christmas. I know you do that and you're doing it with your family, and also a Happy New Year and all that. And I'm excited about 2025 and have enjoyed the last several years of doing this, and I look forward to another great one.
Me too. And if you want to keep up with me on Facebook, it's Ask Jimmy Carter. That's the public Facebook. You don't have to be approved or anything. You just go there. And then the YouTube channel is where you can hear this. If you're trying to explain to somebody, wherever you got it, you can also get it on YouTube and everywhere else, right?
Spotify, Apple, Amazon.
So, that's there. And YouTube is such a great place to go down a rabbit hole.
Well, and we've been talking a little bit, so don't be surprised if next year this podcast doesn't come with video.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say. We got some things up our sleeve. There you go. And by the way, before I let everybody go, I want to thank all the listeners that have been part of this podcast. We hope to double our size next year, just like we did the first year, and get bigger and bigger. But we appreciate everybody listening to it.
Yes, we do. And we'll try to get better and try to do amazing things in 2025.
Indeed. Things get better with age, right? That's what they say.
I hope so.
All right, Jimmy. Until next time, until next year, I'm Derek Walker.
Yes.
He is
Jimmy Carter. Good day.
Good day.